Welcome to Holistic Human Performance Podcast. My name is Gena, where we talk all things holistic health, wellness, spirituality, fitness, meditation, energetics, and so much more to help you become the healthiest version of yourself. Let's dive in. This is not medical advice. This is simply to help you on your journey through health, fitness, and wellness. I hope this helps. You can complement this with anything that you are doing currently in your life. Enjoy. What the holistic human performance community has turned into is something beyond words. I am so grateful for each and every single one of you. And I wanted to talk about what the community is all about. And really, it just started with me going through a really low time in life, where I did not have my health as a 2-time cancer survivor. And I really leaned into holistic health, that lifestyle, changing everything about it, really taking a deep dive into energy medicine and spirituality and combining all of these different aspects of mind, body, and soul together. That helped me heal on a deep level. And now I am following out my soul's mission and purpose and bringing this to you all. And so I want to invite you inside of the holistic human performance community. We have an app, which is the HHP app on Apple and Google Play, which you can also get all of these goodies on the desktop as well. And really what you're going to find inside of this community, I call it the Virtual Wellness Center. It's going to be all about holistic health, spirituality, energetics, all different practices, tools, modalities. So we have things like sound bath meditations, we have breath work, we have tapping series, we have workouts, we have somatic healing, we have masterclass series, we have programs. I have other professionals come on inside of the app to teach. So there's so many cool things you get inside of this community. And so I wanted to give this to you all as a membership. And what you're getting is a monthly membership where you have 300 plus on-demand videos, plus live stream classes and programs and courses. You're literally getting all of these incredible tools to take with you wherever, whenever you need. And so for $33 per month, you get access to this. Or you can do annual, which is $320 for the year. You're getting all of this inside of the Holistic Human Performance Virtual Wellness Center. And not only that, you could try it out for 1 week free and cancel whenever you want. So these are things that are going to help reprogram your subconscious mind, you regulate your nervous system, keep you healthy and navigating life with full life force energy, and really helping you to express yourself authentically while also enhancing your health and your well-being so that you can find and follow your soul's mission and purpose. So I invite you inside of this community. It is so beautiful and juicy. And not to mention, we have a whole section inside of the app where it is a community forum so we can chat with each other and talk about our wins, what we're going through, and so much more. And I don't know if I mentioned, if you are a one-on-one coaching client, you get full access to the entire Virtual Wellness Center membership. So I invite you inside of the HHP community. Again, you can get your week free trial on Apple or Google Play or right on your desktop at holistichumanperformance.co. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Human Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Gena Vitale, and today we have a very special guest with us. We were literally just talking before recording for like a solid half hour. I am so excited to get into this topic. We have Victoria Pippo with us today. She's a multidimensional healer, faith based leader, innovative businesswoman, philanthropist, and spiritual guide, specializing in psychic development, energy healing, and interference protection. She has a unique blend of spiritual insight and professional expertise. Victoria helps high level entrepreneurs, celebrities, and healers globally protect their energy and thrive in their work and life. She brings this unique combination of practical spiritual tools and professional experience to guide individuals in protecting themselves while expanding their psychic abilities. Without further ado, welcome.
Holy, I am a mouthful, you guys. Wow, I love listening to myself back. I'm like, yeah, I know her. Yeah, that's me. Thank you so much, Jenna. That was such an amazing introduction. And like she was sharing, we have been on the roll. The moment we connected on Zoom, it felt like a kindred spirit. And so
Literally.
I hope for any of you who are listening today that you find immense value and whatever you needed to hear to be found here today.
Yeah. So guys, I want to just put a little I guess warning. I don't even want to use the word warning, but I just
Disclaimer.
want yeah, disclaimer, that's the word, disclaimer. Uh I have pregnancy brain, so disclaimer. Um, so we're going to really, and I've been wanting to talk about this topic so much lately. Like it's been just really been a download for me coming up. Like everybody needs to know about this information. When you develop your spiritual gifts, you have your awakening, and you're starting to work with mentors or coaches, but you don't learn discernment. You don't learn the different energies. Who are you channeling? What's around you? What are you open to? You're not protecting yourself. This literally can cause chaos in your life, and it literally can make you sick. It can cause disease in the physical body. It can cause a whole slew of problems. And so we really want to take a deep dive into this, especially for those who are entrepreneurs, spiritual healing entrepreneurs who want to get into this business, but also like you think it's love and light. I'm sorry, but it's not. It's
Mhm.
not. We're done with the spiritual bypassing. This is so important to practice discernment, and that is exactly what we are going to get into today. And I'm so excited to have Victoria on to discuss this because this is literally what she does. There are dark forces out there, people. We're at a spiritual like we're going through a spiritual war. This is not to fear. This is just to make you aware and to be like protecting your energy. This is
Yes.
so key.
Yes, I think this is going to be such a rich conversation. It might feel dense, but sometimes the truth feels dense. And that's really what we want to
Yeah.
highlight here is that what I have found to be true in the spiritual community is that when I had had psychic attacks and experiences where my health was being siphoned, where I was waking up in the middle of the night being attacked by dark forces, I didn't feel like the spiritual community was an ally for me
Mm,
because I wasn't high vibe,
mm,
because I was participating in an illusion. They gaslight you to make you think that anything that you have that is dark that you're experiencing in the psychic realm means that it's an illusion. And when you tell somebody that what they're having in terms of a nightmare or an attack is an illusion, you're gaslighting somebody's experience. And so I felt very gaslit by the
yeah.
spiritual community when I was having attack for months from multiple dark forces in my energy. And so, what I'm going to talk about a lot today is not just coming from a book that I read or some other channeler who offered this insight. This is from real life experience of somebody
Mm,
who's experienced spiritual psychosis, who's experienced attack from negative and evil vibrations, who now, as an energy healer, removes demonic forces from clients' energies. Everything I'm going to share today is from experience. And
mm,
like I said, it might feel dense, but this reality is dense. So we have
yeah.
to get comfortable with understanding the density of reality we're living in. And from that truth, that's where we get set free.
Yeah. And okay, so let's go back. When did you, because again, I feel like obviously this is more open now, but I know personally we're close to the same age when I was growing up. Like this was not spoken about. I had intuitive gifts I didn't even know I had. I didn't have any of this knowledge or experience or anyone to kind of like show me the way. So when did you first start to notice that you had these intuitive, psychic abilities? And what was that experience like for you?
So, as a child, around 2 to 3 years old, I was seeing my deceased grandfather, who I'd never met.
Wow.
My mom told me that I would always say, Grandpa's here, Grandpa's here, Grandpa's going to protect me. He's right here. He's on the left side of my body. Like, I would always call him out on the left side and say, Grandpa's here, Grandpa's here. And because it was my mom's father at the time, that was obviously very shocking for her to hear that information. But from a
Mm,
very young age, I was very clairvoyant. Now, I'm very thankful that I had parents who knew that I was different, but were not spiritually awakened. So
yeah.
they didn't know what to do with it, but they accepted that there would be some place for it. And
Okay.
for a lot of intuitives, empaths, sensitives, starseeds, we end up finding ourselves in art. And so from a young age, my mom put me into singing competitions. She put me into modeling and she put me into acting. And so I was able to take that imagination, let's call it, because I assume that's what they perceived it as, like, what a vivid imagination at the time. And they put me into performance. And so I spent my young life into my young adult life up until about 25 years old being a professional performer. And interestingly enough, now that I had my spiritual awakening in 2019 and I'm looking back on that time of my life, I can see how my clairvoyance never calcified. Like I always stayed awake because I was always playing in imagination. I was always
Mm,
playing in belief. I was always adopting different characters and playing different roles and definitely living in this like escapism slash fantasy reality that
yeah.
in that time of my life was really reprieve for me growing up in a really unfortunately kind of toxic childhood environment.
Mm,
And so in hindsight, I see how even though I was very clairvoyant and I didn't know that I was, and it was not necessarily something that was understood, I feel that the place for it was encouraged by my parents, and I'm thankful for that because when my awakening happened and I started to meditate, it was like I was in completely different dimensions and universes very quickly because I never lost that growing up.
okay, got it. So, okay, so 2019, that's
Yes.
like when the
Oh
ironically
yeah.
enough, before the world shuts down, you have like this spiritual awakening. What was that like for you? Because I know for me, I felt like all hell was breaking loose, and I was just like, what's happening?
Oh yeah, girl. Same, but probably like diff circumstance. My awakening happened on a cruise ship. I was
Ah,
playing Mary Poppins on a cruise ship.
I could so see that for
Oh, don't even get me started. I could 5, 6, 7, 8 start singing right now.
you.
So I was playing Poppins on a cruise ship, and this was around the time that I was in a relationship with someone long distance. They were living back in my hometown at the time, which was like Toronto, Ontario region.
Mm,
And first day of the ship, I'm doing this like security, I guess, service that any performer has to do. You basically, when people come on the cruise ship, all of the guests have to go through like safety precautions. And so all of the performers are required to like get everybody excited. Like, if we're gonna die, get on this boat. Like, it was one of our roles. And I remember I'm addressing my message to the guests, and I look over and there is like the sexiest Portuguese man I have ever seen in my life. It was like God was like, "You see that right there? Yeah, that's your type, honey." Now, mind you, I'm still in this relationship with this person back home. It took me just about 3 days to cheat on my partner.
okay.
And my partner was back home was the healthiest relationship I had ever had at the time. And that spiraled me because
Mm,
once I had cheated on my partner and I had lived in this fantasy world where it was okay, we were living on a cruise ship, blah, 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 like I'm just following this temptation. But I had had the first healthiest relationship of my life. That was my catalyst to recognize the self-sabotage, to recognize the self-perpetuating loop of always trying to push away something that was good for me, not being able to have the conversations that need to happen before you hurt somebody else,
Yeah.
and not thinking that there were consequences for my actions. And mainly because I assumed I was going to be abandoned anyway. That was my story. Ah, well,
Okay.
he's going to leave me at some point anyway. That relationship shift was the catalyst for me to question, why had I been in narcissistic relationships prior? Why would I do that to somebody that I deeply loved? And what has been the common thread? Oh, wait, it's been me.
Mm.
So, for a lot of people in their spiritual awakening journey, it's the recognition that they're the common denominator. And so for me, mine was recognizing the common denominator in really unhealthy relationship choices and very unhappy relationships in general.
Mm.
And so this caused a complete upheaval in my life, to the point that, you know, I was questioning everything, as most people do, just like you were saying, it felt like hell. And so I started to meditate to try to find lapse between the heartbreak and my grief that I had caused upon myself, and then the attempt to have hope in something bigger. So I would meditate to try to find reprieve. And slowly but surely, I would meditate for longer and longer stints of time, and I would start to feel things.
Mm.
For example, when I'd be meditating in a small cabin that was mine and mine alone, I would get this whiff of air on the left side of my body. And I go, what was that? It's weird. There's no like control, like every piece of air here is controlled. So why am I getting this like random breath of air? So I'd try to
Yeah.
meditate in different places in my room, and I'd still get that breath of air. And I'd
Hmm.
get deeper and deeper and deeper into meditation and still feel what felt like this presence that I didn't understand. And one day I'm really deep in meditation, still feeling this presence. And this voice comes in as clear as you and I are having this conversation and says, I am your grandfather. I am your spirit guide, and
I
I've
knew
been
you were gonna say that.
with you your whole life. Then I get this whiff of campfire. Like it was like I was sitting there crackling fire right in front of me, making s'mores. I'm like, whoa, what is this sensation? It just went through my entire system. So I ran upstairs, closed out of meditation, called my mom. Because at this time, I didn't know that previous information I had shared with you, but I knew that my grandfather was my mom's dad. So now I
Mm.
wanted to connect the dots. And so I said, Mom, did I ever tell you that I talked to Grandpa growing up? And she said, you would always say, Grandpa's here, Grandpa's here. And you would
Wow.
always say he lived on that left side of your body where I was getting that air, that presence where I was pointing, Grandpa's here, over there, over there. And I said, and what do campfires mean to you? Like, how is that somehow connected? And she started to cry. And she said, that is my fondest memory with my father.
Oh.
Before he passed, because he passed quite young of cancer, they would always spend part of the year camping. And that something clicked in my
Mm.
brain in that moment, where I was able to put together something about what had been happening in my life and why this catalyst moment needed to happen for me to be able to move forward. And so
Wow.
from then it was like, tell me more. I want to know more. I wasn't afraid of it. I was excited. It felt like I had
Mm.
understood a part of myself. And the day I got off the cruise ship was March 13th, 2020, the day the world shut down.
Whoa.
The day the world shut down. And that really started my awakening, like
Wow.
surged it to the heights that it's at now.
Did you seek out like mentor? Like, yeah, okay. How did
So
you go about that?
I had this random healer from 2018, maybe end of 2018 into 2019. A friend of mine who I was working with at this gym, she hands me this card of this healer that lived across the street on top of a pet store, and it lit a like big sign that said like Psychic Julie on it. And I was like, you think I'm good? Like, never had a tarot reading before. I'm like, you think I'm gonna take this card and go talk to this lady? You're on glue. So I hold on to it for a few months. And one day I'm like, why not? I
Yeah.
got nothing to lose. So I went for a reading with her, and I sat down with this woman, really skeptical. But when I'm uncomfortable, I just talk people's ear off. So I'm like talking, talking, talking. And the first thing she says to me is like, "Are you going to let the cards speak?" I was like, "Hey." So she reads the cards for me and tells me that there's a lot of significance on my maternal line, which I had been really shocked by because most of my life I thought it was about my paternal line. And so
Hmm.
she'd done a few months of healing work on me, and it was the best I had ever felt. And then, right as I got my Mary Poppins contract to go on the cruise ship, I was in this healthy, happy relationship. She's like, "You definitely have some deeper work to do on your bloodline." And I was like, "I'm not spending thousands of dollars on a healer. Sorry, no."
Yeah.
And she goes, "You're going to have to come back to me, but okay, do you?"
Yeah.
And then all of this relational stuff happened. And I remember the moment I shot her a text message on the cruise ship, and I was like, "I'm ready to do the work."
Yeah.
And so, as my healer, she never really guided me about my gifts. She just did the spiritual work. And so I had her support to help me heal some bigger pieces in my bloodline. But otherwise, I kind of felt like quite alone in my
Mm.
understanding. And in many ways, I actually think that that was good for me. And I think it's really good for most people. It's why my psychic development school is called the Sovereign Healer. And I teach people how to meditate for 9 months without learning all these like weird, unnecessary gifts. Like,
Yeah.
I teach people how to sit in meditation for 9 months because
It's too much. It's too overwhelming.
and it's the same matrix of like trying to grab more money and grasp more money from like 10K, 15K, 20K, 25K, 100K. Like it's the same chase, but it's just
Yeah.
cloaked in remote viewing and channeling aliens. Like,
Yeah.
so I'd rather people just learn how to sit. And that act of sitting for me and just sitting with my own stuff and going into gentle visualization meditations brought all my clear abilities online. And so now that's what I teach.
And think about it, because I know I was the same way. And I also like to pair it like with what I do, a lot of like nervous system regulation,
Yep.
somatics. So many people, and I hear this so often, oh, meditating, I can't sit still. I can't do that. It's if you cannot get the basics down, I mean, it's like you can't skip that step because then, and also with like the anxiety piece too, why people are anxious is because there's so much noise around them.
Yes.
And there's so much coming in that you don't know what's coming in, by the way. You could get Joe Schmo's negative energy over there. You
Yep.
could get Debbie's energy over there. You could be getting downloads at the same time, and your nervous system is tweaking out,
Yep.
plus your own shit that's going on.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can't even skip the basics. Like if you can't sit still and you can't be and go inside your inner world, it's going to be very challenging to develop your skills. And that's where I started as well. Like just get quiet.
And that's the hardest part. It's like telling an addict, well, just stop drinking.
Right.
They're like, well, great advice, my guy. Like, that's awesome advice. That was honestly as simple as it can be. Same thing goes when dysregulation really it drives most people, myself included.
Hmm.
Being a performer most of my life, living in a traumatic environment, growing up, wanting to get out of it, do something better for myself, for my family, for my bloodline. That driver really creating more trauma to try to get out of trauma.
Right.
Being diagnosed with ADHD at a young age, like I understand and have sympathy for those who are like, I can't meditate because I can't sit still. That's really like actually the whole point of meditation is to go, yeah, I can't sit still. Why? Why? It's bringing curiosity into the dialogue and not needing to meditate for 25 minutes at first. Doing five
Right.
minutes, 5 minutes, listening to someone guide you who says, take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Like it
Just
really
focusing on
is
the breath.
exactly simple, simple techniques. I think people think they have to be all or nothing. Like I need
Yeah.
to sit there for 45 minutes and not make a sound. I've been doing this for 5 years, which feels like a very short amount of time in retrospect, but so much growth has happened. And
Right.
I sit in my meditations and get distracted all the time.
Yeah. Same. I mean, like the other day, I had like, and we were talking about this before, just because you're spiritual doesn't mean you don't feel and doesn't
Yes.
mean you're going to be happy-go-lucky all the time. I had raging anger the other day. And I was like, what do I do with this anger right now? And I was really guided into kind of switching up my it, it has a lot to do with this pregnancy and like a lot of like healing that's coming through. But I was guided, it kind of just came to me again, just like when you develop your skills, like you just like kind of hear it inside your mind and it's just like that drop and it's like switch up your morning meditation, focus on more breath work. So I did that
Mm.
and it just like helped me tremendously. And I'm like, oh, okay, very simple yet effective. Great, thank you.
Yes, I love that you're bringing that in because the simple things work. It's
You
just
can't skip them.
we want to complicate it. Because if we've been experiencing suffering and our suffering is so complex, which a lot of times it is because it's, looped in this whole story about why this, that, and
Yeah,
oh, because of my health, this, that. But the actual pathway to peace right now is so simple. Using breath, using presence, pausing. It's the discomfort that comes from recognizing that we haven't created any pause
yeah,
and we don't even breathe right.
yeah.
So many of us are shallow breathers. So many of us breathe through our mouths. So many of us do not actually oxygenate ourselves in ways that truly create a full, deep breath. It's triggering
Mm-hmm.
to realize that we have complicated just about everything, and that spirituality is not about being high vibe, it's about being balanced. It's not about alignment, it's about being able to be centered. It's about being able to hold the spectrum of duality and be able to accept the duality. It's not about transcending it, it's about understanding it. It's about giving compassion to it. It's not about leaving this matrix, this 3D matrix. It's about living in this 3D matrix, but with understanding, with protection, with wisdom. It's like that's really what it is about. It's about harmony and balance, not transcendence and ascension. Even though I'm sure we can probably agree, like there's an evolutionary shift that is happening on this planet where more
Yeah,
people are waking up and understanding themselves. But how do we know that this did not happen 100 years ago just from a different perspective of Earth's evolution?
right.
And really, if we look at history, every 100 years something happened.
Yeah.
So what
History
makes us
repeats
different?
itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
precisely my point. Are these the end of times, or is it always the end of time after a century and the Earth is just regenerating herself? It's just we've
Mm-hmm.
become more aware of ourselves, and so this is what it looks like to evolve with awareness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It just changes the dialogue between like I'm ascending on this planet and therefore I need to transcend my emotions because I'm a soul. And now it starts to open up the dialogue of like I'm living this like super juicy human experience as a soul. I'm a human being. Let me evolve with this instead of trying to transcend this and say that I'm enlightened.
I am so happy you're bringing this up because emotional intelligence is a big part of what I teach
Huge.
people. And that is actually the biggest indicator of intelligence, by the way, over IQ. And what people in the spiritual community like to do is like, oh, like, and listen, yes, there are low vibration emotions, but it doesn't mean they're bad. It's
Mhm.
like, are you able to allow it to, like, you feel it, but then
Mhm.
you allow it to flow through your body. You don't
Yes.
become like, you might have sad moments, you might have angry moments, but you don't become the emotion. You don't
Yes.
become an angry woman. You don't become a
Yes.
sad woman just because you're feeling it and taking on the identity of that emotion. And I find that a lot of the times when I'm like listening or learning and just kind of like researching what's going on in our kind of community, and I come across these times where it's like you shouldn't be feel like, first off, don't should anything,
Yes, amen.
and second off, like, emotions are healthy. They show you the medicine. That's what leads you to your own healing and evolution as well. And any mentor, healer, teacher that's telling you like it's not good for you to be feeling anger, rage,
Yeah.
find a new teacher. Like go
Yes.
find somebody else because that's
Yes.
not right. And, that's how you actually can become sick because now you're just overriding the feeling aspect and not actually working out of the body, which in
Yes.
turn actually disrupts your spiritual gift.
Yes. This is exactly what I teach my students in my psychic development school because a lot of what I teach is about evil interdimensional beings. So evil demons, different reptilians, different shapeshifters that pretend to be Archangel Michael. And I talk a lot about being able to know your soul connection so deeply
Hmm.
and be able to feel so present in your body that you can notice those subtle shifts of energy. And
Yeah.
a mentor is telling you that once you get to a certain vibration, then you realize fear is an illusion, then they're really living in a reality of disassociation and bypass because fear is real, especially as you're opening up your gifts. I like to say that any healer or any person who's on their awakening journey wants to help people who's actually living in integrity would definitely feel fear.
Oh my God.
I'm
I
afraid of
feel,
doing the wrong thing. I'm
oh,
afraid of
100%.
misguiding somebody. I'm afraid that what I'm doing is not beneficial. I'm afraid that I'm not fulfilling my full potential. That doesn't mean that what I'm feeling is an illusion. It means that what I'm feeling is very real and it catalyzes me to serve in greater integrity, to serve with deeper intention, to make sure that I'm well taken care of so I can actually fill others with the service that they deserve. Fear is not a fucking illusion. And anybody who tells you that is living in a reality where they feel fear and they call it an illusion. And that just
Yeah.
tells you that they're disconnected from reality.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about dark forces because I definitely am on board with this. Like, lizard people, like the dark forces, like it's all out here. It's real. Like, even like when I work with a specific, and by the way, like when you work with someone and you really trust them, like I believe like sticking with that person. Like don't just because it's like a trend and you're like, "Oh, this person's up and like you don't need to be doing that and having like all of these healers. No, like stick to what you trust and stick to like this person is genuinely helping me and their energy is pure with good intentions. And like we always talk about how it's like the lizard people, these evil forces coming in, spiritual warfare, like that's like literally what we're going through right now. And as a light worker, like we're on the front lines. Like
Yes.
we're being like attacked on another level. And if you aren't protecting yourself, I mean, it can knock you the hell out, and then you're not able to really like shine your light and help other people. So
Yes.
talk to me about number one, because you mentioned an experience you
Oh yeah.
had. Like, what was that like? Because maybe some people that are listening have experienced these symptoms and they don't even realize what's going on.
Yes. Yes. So at the end of 2022, I had found out from that same healer from 2019. I
Mhm.
reached out to her again that I had had multiple evil entity attachments.
Oh,
Now, if I go back a little bit in time to think about what my behaviors were like, I started to get
yeah.
really involved in the coaching industry online.
Mm.
And a lot of the coaches that I was working with were very money, manifestation, power, quantum leaping focused, a little
Okay.
less about faith, God,
Okay.
timing, trust, more so about being able to align your energetic capacity to hit higher and higher and higher. And having been a performer and wanting to
It
get that
appealed to
role,
you.
they 100%. It was like, I can achieve that, Capricorn. I can climb that mountain. 100%. I'm here to do big
How
things.
Capricorn of you.
Oh, how Capricorn of me to be like, they did it, I can do it better and twice as fast. So I got involved in the coaching industry and I had made a lot of money. I hit it my first $1 million a year. I was wildly successful, but I felt empty.
Mm.
I felt empty. Like I was always chasing this number. And then when I hit it, it felt less and less and less than the time before. Around this time, I was also beginning to wake up in the middle of the night feeling like I was being choked by something. I'd wake up and I'd feel like I was like trying to clear my throat. And I would get
Ooh.
this feeling of something's creepy. Like I couldn't figure it out because I didn't have discernment. I didn't have control. I was energy healing for my clients. I've always been an energy healer, but the way that I was healing people was like, I like to call it like Reiki. It's like maintenance work. You go in,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
clear something, you close it, you walk away. I wasn't
yeah,
seeing anything. I was seeing emotions, I was seeing
yeah.
pain, and I was clearing it.
And
That's what energy
sometimes,
healing to me.
and sometimes too, like if you're not doing that extra protective work or like closing it out and like you can like take on those people's
Totally.
entities.
Totally. And here's the thing. It took me a few months of perpetually suffering because it kept getting worse and worse. Like I like to explain
Wow.
it like I went into this dark tunnel and then I wanted to, trigger warning, kill myself.
Mm,
And I couldn't figure out where it was coming from because I had had $1 million business. I had
yeah.
literally pulled myself out of basically like coming from nothing. It didn't add up.
Mm,
And so when I reached out to my healer and she looked into it and we found out that there were multiple entity attachments actually from a past life where they had been searching for me from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime and found me when my vibration was in a particular time. And then they began to latch for my energy. When we
what?
began the removal process, when I tell you I was fighting for my life, I mean like I was actually fighting for my life. And this is a conversation that I want to bring awareness to because a lot of times people in the spiritual community will pretend like they're Jesus. And like if you
Mm,
just like revoke a demon, they'll leave. And there are certain situations where an interdimensional evil entity might come and give you a little bit of trickery and then you revoke it and it leaves. But when it's attached to you, it's attaching to two kinds of parts of your energy. One, your light cord, which means your visibility, your strength, your passion, your purpose, the why that you're here on the planet, or your negative cords, which is the only conversation you hear of talked about in the spiritual community. If your vibration is low, if you have negative energy, if you have negative emotions, if you're, constantly focused on the darkness, then you'll attract the darkness. In the case of my journey, I think it was kind of a hybrid where my my drive has always been to serve the planet, but it became a little too negative when I started focusing on me and what I wanted for me. And so every night that my healer and I were working for, I'd say a little over a month of removing this, I could message her at 3 in the morning and say, I feel like I'm being attacked. And she would answer me and be like, I'm
wow.
on it. She would stay up all night in battle for me. It wasn't like, and then one day we woke up and they were gone.
Wow.
Was like every day I was fighting for my health and every day I was fighting against these thoughts. My fiance would reach out to my healer and be like, Victoria's not in a good place. And I'd be running around the house being like, I want to kill myself. I don't want to be here. Like people don't want to talk about how dark it gets when you're being psychologically manipulated. And none of
Yeah.
us are Jesus. Like
Yeah.
it would never have been as easy for me to be like, I revoke, I am the light, when
Yeah.
the very thing is pulling from the cords of my energy.
Right. Yeah, you're not thinking of that. You're not like able to even access that.
That's like saying that a healer who has a broken arm can heal their own broken arm.
Right.
I'm in pain about my broken arm. How can I send myself frequencies to heal a broken arm when I'm the one that has the broken arm? It's
Right.
like if I'm deeply broke, then how can I fix myself if my vibration is broke? So a few months in, finally we had cleared out everything. And for the first time, I felt like the veil had been ripped off.
Wow.
And I felt like I had been sold a freaking lie. And I had been consumed by love and light, magic rhetoric, 5D ascension, new age in the spiritual community. And I didn't have anybody who was talking about evil forces. So this really catalyzed my journey to educating myself about good and evil, about what's actually happening on this planet, what true protection looks like, what safe, effective energy healing looks like. And now to the point that I can do this for my clients, which is that's the gift of God. God will take something that was evil, that was horrible, and turn it into good. And now I get to
Yeah.
educate and turn it into something so good for so many people.
Yeah, wow. You had to go through that in order to help other people with that. Because
Yep.
again, like you said, like not a lot of healers talk about this. Like I have one specific one that really gets into it. And other than that, like I haven't really heard much. Maybe two people that I work with. And I it's not. And I see it a lot too. Like if you were an energy healer, psychic, medium, whatever you want to call yourself, right? And you're working with other people's energies, you better really hone in to understanding and attuning to the different energy types and knowing that it's not all love and light.
No, and it doesn't matter what your vibration is. And that's the real thing that I want to drive home for your audience. Think about it this way. I love to use this example. Think about every celebrity who's ever exposed the Illuminati.
They're usually like unalived.
Precisely. They're either killed off, right? Or they're crazy. They're crazy. Jim Carrey's crazy,
Yep.
right? They have to call someone crazy for exposing truth.
Yep.
Do you think that someone like, for example, Jim Carrey, do you think Jim Carrey is in fear and that's why these reptilian overlords that are like ruling these elites are like trying to kill him off? I don't think Jim Carrey's in fear. I think he's
I don't think so.
the bull.
Yeah, because he's been talking about this since I want to say the 90s.
Precisely.
Yeah,
It's his visibility that's the threat. Not that he's in fear. They're more in fear of his visibility
of
than him
course.
being visible. And that's what I want to highlight. How many people do you know? I know plenty who hit a peak milestone of success
Mm-hmm.
and then fell off the face of the earth, or
Mm-hmm.
everything went to shit. Everything fell apart in their lives, their health, their finances, their well being. Wasn't because they were in fear, it's because they were visible. And when they were visible, they're like, I'm exposing the truth and I'm hitting these milestones of my mission and purpose. And that's the threat.
Yep.
People think that evil or dark forces only connect to negative chords in someone's energy. It's not true. Most of the time with my clients, what I see when I go into their energy is that it's connected to their light cords, to their strength, to their passion. That's a driver for an entity, not just that they were holding a lower vibration and they can, feed off of it like a parasite. God, they have food for life when you're living in your mission.
Yeah.
Because those drivers, I find when you're trying to fulfill what you came here to fulfill, they teeter your strength and your weakness at the same time. Meaning, I can be so impassioned about my mission that I can very easily be motivated by the wrong thing. It's like the line is very fine between I'm trusting my path. Everything is working out in perfect divine order. I'm waiting for those intuitive impulses to move and I'm letting God take care of the rest versus it's the 13th of the month. I haven't made the kind of money I need. I have 20 days left of the month and I'm petrified. So let me just go over here and make a quick buck. Let me just go over here and step out of my balance. Let me go over here and try to sell something that doesn't feel in integrity.
Mm-hmm.
That mission drive is such an easy shift from power to weakness.
Mm.
And so, for those of you who are listening, know that your visibility, you being in your light, is one of the greatest, if not the greatest threat for an evil entity. And it doesn't matter what your vibration is, you cannot transcend this third dimensional reality we're living in, regardless of the perception of awareness you have. Like you can get to 5D and exist in this 5D dimension where, everything is of a higher vibration and you're a conscious creator of your reality, but it doesn't change the fact that the creator of all that is allowing an evil agenda to play out on this planet for God reason to
Yep. Something
support
we don't know. Yeah.
something that we can drive ourselves mad trying to understand. That was the one thing after all of this happened to my energy and I went through this and I grew from it, that drove me insane. Why? Why would God have evil on this planet? And people like to say because it helps enforce the light. Okay, fine. But there's something deeper than that. It
Yeah.
like I didn't feel conclusive to be like because it strengthens the light. It's like that's a very simple way of taking a very complex thing and just saying that's easier for me.
Mm.
It's like I wanted to understand so badly why God would allow evil and people to serve the master of evil, which means you can't serve God if you're serving evil. Why would he allow that to happen? Why would free will be allowed to happen?
Yeah.
And ultimately to this day, I still don't know. But what I
And
do
I,
know, yeah,
mm-hmm.
go ahead.
No, no, no. Finish. Go ahead.
Just even now, I'm okay with not knowing because what matters is I can tell you with complete certainty I'm serving my relationship with God. I know I'm on my true natural path, and I know that I'm helping people stay on theirs. That's enough for me. It's like I don't need to know more. And when I get stubborn and I want to know more, I don't find it. So I learn to let it go. I think we get so obsessed with trying to find the information about the universe this unlimited, infinite universe that we drive ourselves blue in the face instead of just enjoying life and knowing that when information comes in, it'll be the right time.
I literally was gonna say, I always say this to my client, like sometimes you don't need to know what the
Yes.
why. Like sometimes you just don't need to know the why. Like your body's doing its thing, it's purging, it's releasing, it's letting go. Let it just do its thing. You don't need to know why, because in
Yes.
turn, what you just said, you can drive yourself mad. Like you could
Yes.
go bonkers, and that's where we get too stuck in our analytical mind, and it you know blocks our gifts. It just makes it fuzzy for
Yes.
us. So
Yes.
I'm so glad that you said that, because you took the words right out of my mouth.
I'm not even surprised,
Yeah.
Jenna. It's-
Okay, wait, so I want to shift gears because I'm always intrigued by this, because this is not, I don't want to say it's not a gift that I have, but it's definitely not something that I am tuned into like in this lifetime.
Okay.
Talk to me about channeling aliens.
Oh, I can definitely do that.
Yes, tell me about it, because, okay, so obviously we were talking about this prior, and you have all these people that are basically like celebrities at this point, where they
Mhm.
trans channel, and it's like, what are they channeling? Like, who are they channeling? Like, what are these beings that are coming through? And this is where, like, we were talking about the dark forces. Like,
Yep.
what what kind of beings are you channeling, and kind of like how do you utilize and practice, especially when you were first like learning this
Yes.
gift, practicing that discernment of like the energy type.
So when I first began channeling, I did not and would not take any of my own advice now. So I'm going to start with that because
Yeah.
when I first began the journey of exploring my spirituality, when I wasn't on the cruise ship and finally I could start to use internet
Yeah.
and look into things, I would see a lot of different channelers and I was intrigued of like, who are the Galactic Federation? Who are the Arcturians? Like, I remember I was in meditation
So
once
cool.
and I was called to see this image of this blue being and I drew it like I could like see this alienoid being in my mind's eye and I'm like what is that, and I drew it out and I colored it in, and then I went on Pinterest and I found out that it was an Arcturian being and I was like what the heck, like what is that, and so this led me down the rabbit hole
Hmm.
of like wait, if I can like close my eyes, call forward my grandfather and feel him, then can I like do that with like different beings? And so this is not the advice I would give to myself now, but that's really what it looked like. And
Hmm.
it's what it looks like for a lot of people,
Yeah.
where they start to open things up and they see other people who are channeling these beings and they feel called to that particular starseed origin and that starseed race. And they're like, ah, I think I'm from Arcturus as well. Like, let me look into this. I think I'm from Sirius and let me look into this. And so a lot of that curiosity is what drew and a lot of the initial connections I had, but I couldn't tell you if I was actually connecting with them.
Okay.
I knew that I was seeing beings and that I was receiving messages about the planet, and that was cool. But to the degree of which I can tell you, I knew 100% sure that I was on the Galactic Federation mothership. I don't have accuracy because I never challenged it.
I see.
I never challenged it. It was just like, hey, what's going on?
You didn't ask those further questions, which, by the way, any good mentor would teach you that as well.
100%. Never take it at face value. Never take it at face value. And I did. And that led me to the entity attachments to then
Uh,
where I'm at
okay.
now,
I
which
see.
is I was visited by a Syrian being. This is like gray being, kind of like I would call him like bluey gray, light bluey gray,
Mm,
big, big head, black eyes, really, really tall being by my bed at 7 o'clock at night in 2023.
hmm,
Never saw him in my life. And he says, my name is Tay,
hmm,
and I need you to help me contribute to the great merge.
huh.
I said, a what?
What are
What?
you talking about?
Who are you? And then I felt this massive draw to go into my office and start to write. And
Okay.
so he starts to talk to me about how we are the representation of the 12 constellations and the four planets, or excuse me, the four elements. And he starts walking me through what is happening on this planet that he calls the Great Merge.
Hmm,
And after this basically download of information and codes came through, he left. And I sat there, mind blown. And it led me briefly to a very dark place because I felt like I had an experience with a being that I had never had before. And he asked me to help him with this mission called the Great Merge. And I had just cleared all the entity stuff. And so I didn't know if I could trust a bloody word that he was saying.
Right.
And the information of like, he ultimately told me that he wanted me to perform global light work for the planet, to go to different places on the planet and perform healing for it. So like energy work for the planet. I'm like, I don't even know what energy work looks like for me at this point now that all of this stuff happened with these entities. And so thankfully, I have a mentor and I told her about the experience and her response was, "I'm so excited this happened to you. This is the next part of your mission."
Ah!
And I was like, "Whoa."
What?
So so that's cool. A few days later, once I kind of integrated and was like, okay, then when I was in meditation, I called him in. And I because the initial contact had been made. So now I can call him in because the vibration is a match.
He came to you, yes.
That's the difference. People try to call in their dead grandpa, but their dead grandpa is free, doesn't want to talk to you. If he wants to
Yeah.
talk to you, he'll come to you.
Yeah.
Cope with your grief. And then if he wants to talk to you, he'll talk to you. So because that vibration was a match, that's why he came through. So now I can invoke because I know I'm a vibrational match for it.
Mm.
So I'm in meditation, opening up my crown, getting my vibration set. Now I understood white shields of protection. I understood grounding cords. I understood cleansing my energy, getting into the right state of mind. And then I called Tay forward. And now I have worked with him for over a year and a half.
That's so
Went
cool.
to 5 different locations around the world. We got 3 more locations this year. We've donated over $30,000 to collective causes all over the world, from the
Wow.
Maui fires to Palestine to the oceans to shark relief funds. We've been able to fund boats for those who are saving the sharks. Like, we've truly been able to do global healing work, but then also provide the majority of the proceeds back to the earth. And so that's what the Great Merge mission is I call healers who want to contribute to healing work for the planet, and we go to these locations we protect, dome the crap out of it. It's like wearing 3 condoms. Like, we protect it so strongly to be able to do this work. And then we open up our hearts and send healing energy, new
Mm.
frequencies to the grids on the planet. And then
Mm.
take whatever remainder proceeds that we have and we give them back to the world.
That's so
So
awesome.
in short, I've been channeling particularly a being named Tay for the last 3 years, excuse me, year and a half. And then otherwise, I've been working with my guides. And
Mm-hmm.
my guides actually came through to me one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
First was my dragon guide. Second was this kind of like Pleiadian like being. This third one is this, he gives me ascended master vibes, but he hasn't really totally clarified
Mm.
his relationship with me, but I feel the vibration of love and understanding. And every time I call him through, I understand that his role is not maybe so much in the dirt with me, but kind of to hold the energy of my field. And they came through without my invocation. They came through in the perfect time. And they gave sign after sign after sign after sign of their benevolence, of their unwillingness to push against my free will or to threaten me in any way or to bargain with me in any way. That's a sign of a channeler who is not working with a benevolent being, is wagering or bargaining.
Mm.
Where a being will bargain, if you do this and deliver this, then I will give you this.
Mm.
And so channeling to me comes naturally with your team of spirits, so your spirit guides, or if you're meant to access different interdimensional beings or groups that are meant to help deliver benevolent, supportive information for those to help the direct contact on this planet.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. And I love that you said like they contacted you, like they came to you.
Yep.
And I always tell people if you go into meditation, like they can't break your free will.
Yep.
So you can also kind of, in a way, call on your spiritual team and those of God's white light
Mhm.
and whoever is meant to come forward in that moment, in that time, based on the particular mission that you have of where you're at, will come through. And they
Yes.
will be kind of like that main force for you, that main
Yes.
guide.
That's exactly how my grandfather was.
Yeah.
And then when he had graduated and I had graduated from our soul contract, he
Yeah.
left. And I
Yeah.
remember that day so clearly because I couldn't feel him anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not getting that whiff there. I'm not feeling that like really grounded grandfatherly presence. It's really weird. And then about a week after, my dragon came through, and I was like, "What the heck? Is that a dragon? I didn't even think it was for real. I thought that was a freaking joke." And everyone's like, "I have a dragon guide," but like, no one has a dragon guide. I'm like, "No, no, no. I actually have a dragon guide." And I work with my dragon guide probably the most, but he's kind of like turned into that grandfather guide because I have that kind of warrior energy about me. I
Yeah.
need those high protections. I need that high guardship of my energy. So of course I have a dragon.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because anyone else that and this is very rare, other uh healers, trans
Yep.
channel, like say I'm just gonna use healers as like a, kind of blanket
Yep.
term, but any of those individuals who have told me that they specifically can channel galactic teams and they do light language, they've told me they have a dragon guide.
Of course, everybody does, right? But it's like my question becomes, well, how do you know? For me, if someone asks me, how do I know? I'm like, well, first, because he came to me, I was not intending to invoke. Number two, I can see him so clearly, clairvoyantly through my mind's eye. I see he's got a young face. He's got blue skin. He's got kind of like fur along his face. He's massive. He's very, very quick. They can, here's a really important piece. They cannot lie to you, but they can trick you.
Uh-huh. Huh.
So if I say, show me your true vibration, they cannot lie to me.
So it's asking the right particular questions.
Show me your true vibration. I'm
I
saying, show
like
me your
that.
truth. Show me your truth. And then you should feel when he comes through, I feel like I grew a set of wings. Like my energy feels like, yeah, like it's like in a good way, not like let me F shit up, but like in a
Yeah, yeah.
positive way. And when I feel that receivership of his vibration, I know that we're working on the right side of the world, you know? And so that is how I work with him. But God, I think every star seed I've ever seen was like, yeah, and like I have a dragon guide. I'm like, did you just see that on like Pinterest? Or like, is that like actually real? It's like, check out what star seed you are. And then someone's like sees that there's a dragon
Yeah.
spirit guide. And that's the challenge. It's like, did you just think that you had the archetype of a dragon, or do you actually like have a dragon spirit guide? And that goes
Yeah,
for
yeah.
any guide. Like, how many people think they have archangel spirit guides? And I'm like, okay, well, how do you know? That's my
Yeah.
first question. Just tell me, how do you know? Well, because I can feel the presence of love. No. How do you know? Well, because I've challenged the vibration, because I've received positive vibration in return, because the messages are benevolent, because of this. Like, educate me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're probably just contributing to more distortion. And Lord, we don't need that anymore in the spiritual
No,
community.
no. No, we don't.
You
It's
know?
funny because I had so in this particular chapter in my life, I have very much wolf spirit
Yeah.
as one of my guides, and it's just like I call it like she's the she wolf. Like she's
Love
just
it.
here with me at all times, and through again, but it was at a particular moment
Yep.
that this came through. And I again was in meditation
Yep.
when this spirit guide spirit animal really came
Yep.
through, and I was like, okay, show me kind of, what do I need to know, and just show me kind of in a way what you were saying, like show me your truth, show me
Yep.
what's if this am I tripping, like what's happening. And no, I
Basically
wasn't
that.
actually tripping.
I love it.
But that's really cool. We could talk for hours, I swear. I'm so glad that we connected. We're gonna absolutely stay in contact.
Oh, I have
Absolutely.
no doubt. I feel like I just made a friend, and it's so nice to
I was
see.
gonna say, did we just become best friends?
Do you want to play karate in the garage? Is my question. Like it really does feel like I have met like a soul fam on this planet, someone who actually understands integrity, someone who actually understands being able to open up, but naturally,
Mm,
because we are all opening up and we are all awakening in our natural time and space. And that has to come naturally, or like you said and spoke about so many times, or we are going to experience disease. A lot of us end up experiencing so much disassociation because we don't know how to stay grounded. And so
mm.
I want to say thank you for your work that you're doing in the world to help people understand their bodies, listen, as somebody who's been in fight or flight most of her life, thank you for doing this big work to help people understand, listen, and come home to their bodies. Like, I'm so grateful that your work exists, and I'm excited to just connect with you more and celebrate your growth more because I definitely feel like I met a soul fam today.
Thank you. I received that. Okay, Victoria, where can people find you?
Yes, so Instagram is going to be where the party's at. I've got a
Yeah,
few other parties like TikTok and stuff, but I think Instagram's best for
you're
everybody.
mainly on the gram.
I'm on the gram. I'm on the
Yeah.
gram. And then my website is Victoria Pippo Inc., like incorporated, but inc.com.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'll put all of that in the show notes.
Amazing.
Guys, we went over a lot today. If you have any questions, reach out. This is some good shit right here,
So
and
good.
I'm so excited to just grow this community, and I'm just so happy to be here with you all today and meet so many amazing people that come on and just to teach you all. So, if you like this episode, like, share, subscribe, write a review. Let us know if you have any topics that you want to hear about. I always love getting all the questions. So until next time, bye.